A former Falcons linebacker. That is the move. That is the signal. First, Big Blue added defense. Then, the linebacker room got squeezed. And then, the injury context changes everything. By the end, you will know what this signing really says. Big Blue lock-in. Breaking news from the facility. The Giants have signed a former Falcons linebacker, and no, this is not a flashy national headline. But if you understand roster building, this is the kind of move that tells you how the front office is thinking. Real talk before we dive in. Eagles fans, Cowboys fans, and Commanders fans love acting like Big Blue is asleep. They are wrong. If you want a channel built by Big Blue, for Big Blue, hit subscribe right now. Every sub is a vote for the G-Men. Comment, "Let's go Giants," and plant the flag. Now let's decode it. Because this move is not just about one linebacker. It is about competition, special teams, insurance, and whether the Giants are fully comfortable with the defensive depth behind the obvious names. And the deeper we go, the more this starts looking less like a camp body and more like a warning sign. Here is where most people get lazy. They hear former Falcons linebacker, they shrug, and they move on. That is how fans miss the real story. The Giants signed a former Falcons linebacker, adding more depth and more competition to the defense as the offseason roster continues taking shape. That is the clean headline. But the real meaning sits underneath it. This is not a splash move. It is not the kind of signing that takes over every sports show. It is not designed to make Eagles fans panic in public. But it matters. Why? Because linebacker depth is one of those areas you do not care about until you desperately need it. The second an injury hits, the second a special teams role breaks down, the second camp competition gets thin, everyone suddenly remembers that the bottom of the roster decides real football games. The Giants are telling you something here. They are still searching. They are still testing. They are still building layers behind the starters. And for a team trying to become New York tough again, that matters. You cannot walk into MetLife Stadium talking about toughness, then treat depth like decoration. The G-men need bodies who can compete, cover kicks, push the room, and give the coaching staff real options. That is the purpose of this signing. Not glamour. Not noise. Function. Now, here is the truth nobody is telling you. This move is about creating pressure inside the roster. The Giants are not handing out comfort. They are forcing players to earn spots. That is the difference between watching any channel and watching this one. Personal opinion here. I think this is a smart move, not a huge move, but a smart one. If the Giants are already seeing health concerns across the roster, adding linebacker insurance is responsible team building. Disagree? Drop your reasoning below. Because I know some of you hear this and say, "Toyn, it is just depth." I hear you. But depth is only just depth until the season starts punching you in the mouth. Then depth becomes survival. And Big Blue has lived that lesson too many times. This signing gives the defense another competitor. It gives special teams another option. It gives the front office a little more protection if the linebacker room gets tested. But wait, story 2 is bigger. Because this signing does not only say something about the player coming in, it says something about the room he is entering. And that is where this gets uncomfortable. Now, what most channels miss is the pressure point. The Giants did not add this former Falcons linebacker in a vacuum. They added him because the roster is still being shaped, and the front office is clearly not done searching for defensive depth. That word matters. Searching. Not celebrating. Not relaxing. Searching. When a team adds depth at linebacker, it can mean several things at once. It can mean they want camp competition. It can mean they want special teams contributors. It can mean they want insurance. It can mean they are not fully comfortable with the current setup. And in my view, this one points to all of it. The Giants are looking at the linebacker room and saying, "Earn it." That is the message. Nobody at the back end of that room should feel safe. This is how serious teams operate. You do not wait until a problem becomes obvious. You add competition before the problem becomes expensive. And special teams cannot be ignored here. A depth linebacker who can help there has real value. That role is not glamorous, but it is one of the fastest ways for a fringe player to make a roster. The Giants need those players. They need defenders who can survive camp. They need players who can handle dirty work. They need options who let the coaching staff adjust when the roster takes hits. And that connects directly to Jaxson Dart, too. Yes, Dart is the starting quarterback. But a young starting quarterback benefits when the entire team is stable around him. Better defensive depth means fewer hidden collapses. Better special teams means better field position battles. Better roster insurance means fewer emergency decisions. Football is connected. The offense does not live alone. The defense does not live alone. Special teams is not a side quest. Big Blue needs the whole machine working. And this is why a small linebacker signing deserves attention. I'll say it, and I know half of you will push back. In my opinion, this is the most revealing kind of off-season move. Not the loudest, the most revealing. It shows the Giants know the roster still has soft spots, and they are not pretending otherwise. Tell me I'm wrong. Now I want your take. Comment depth if you think this is smart roster building. Comment worried if you think it proves the linebacker room is not good enough. No middle ground. Quick reminder, if you are still here, you are Big Blue for real. Hit subscribe and stay locked. Because what comes next is the real bomb. The signing is one layer. The linebacker room is another layer. But the injuries and health concerns across the roster, that is the part that changes the whole conversation. Now, this is what you were really waiting for. The story that flips the meaning of the move. The part that makes this feel less like a routine roster addition and more like a front office reaction. Here it is. Injuries and health concerns are already affecting the roster, and that makes depth signings like this more important than they look at first glance. That is the bomb. Because if the roster were completely clean, this signing would be easy to dismiss. You would say the Giants added a former Falcons linebacker for camp competition, and that would be the end of it. But the roster is not being discussed that way. The brief is clear. Injuries and health concerns are already part of the context. That means the Giants are not just adding a body. They are adding protection against uncertainty. And uncertainty is where NFL seasons get dangerous. You can have a great plan on paper. You can love your starters. You can believe in your core. But when health issues start popping up, the depth chart stops being theory. It becomes reality. This is where front offices separate themselves. Bad front offices wait until the hole is obvious. Smart front offices add competition early, before everyone else understands why. That is what I think the Giants are doing here. They are looking at the roster and saying, we need more options before this becomes a problem. And that is not weakness. That is awareness. Now connect this to the first two stories. First, the Giants added a former Falcons linebacker. That gives them another defensive body. Second, the move points directly to linebacker depth, special teams value, and insurance. Third, injuries and health concerns make that insurance more than a luxury. That is the full picture. The G-men are not just filling a camp spot. They are trying to keep the bottom of the roster from becoming a leak. And if you have watched this team long enough, you know how fast small leaks become huge problems. One missed assignment on special teams. One injury in the wrong room. One backup forced into action before he is ready. That is how seasons tilt. So when people say, why are we talking about this? My answer is simple. Because this is how rosters are built. Not just with stars. Not just with headlines. Not just with names everyone knows. Rosters are built with competition. They are built with pressure. They are built with insurance policies that nobody respects until the moment they save you. And for Big Blue, this is especially important because the NFC East does not forgive weakness. The Eagles will test depth. The Cowboys will test discipline. The Commanders will test structure. If the Giants are thin anywhere, the division will find it. That is why this matters. I'm going on record right now. In my opinion, this signing is more important than most fans will admit. Not because the player is guaranteed to transform the defense, but because the timing screams roster concern. The Giants are protecting themselves before the fire spreads. Convince me I'm wrong. I'm listening. And now you have your answer to the question I asked earlier. Drop depth if you think this is smart roster building. Drop worried if you think this exposes a bigger linebacker problem. If this analysis hit, like the video. That is how we keep the algorithm pushing real Big Blue breakdowns, not lazy national noise. 3 stories. 1 picture. The Giants added a former Falcons linebacker. The front office is still searching for defensive depth, and injuries have made insurance more valuable than usual. That is the thesis. This is not a move built for applause. This is a move built for survival. And I respect that. The Giants are acting like a team that understands the season is not won by the top of the roster alone. It is protected by the middle and bottom of the roster, where special teams contributors, backup defenders, and camp competitors decide who actually survives. That is New York tough. And against the Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders, that identity has to show up everywhere. Not just with the starters. Everywhere. The real question is simple. Are the Giants building enough depth before the pressure arrives? My answer is yes, they are moving in the right direction. But they are not done. Not even close. Listen closely. The next breakdown is going deeper into how these depth moves shape the Giants' roster battles, especially on defense and special teams. If you are Big Blue for real, subscribe now. Do not wait for national media to explain your own team to you. Hit the bell, stay with Giants Daily, and make sure YouTube actually sends you the next one. Drop your final answer below. Depth or worried? I want to see where Big Blue Nation stands. Because this is the kind of move that separates casual fans from people who actually understand roster construction. Casuals chase names. We decode meaning. That is what we do here. But listen closely. One decision is still hanging over this roster. How comfortable are the Giants really with their linebacker depth once camp competition tightens? That answer is coming. And when it comes, this former Falcons linebacker signing may look like the first clue. The Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders are watching for weakness. Big Blue cannot give them any. So stay locked. This roster is still moving. This defense is still being shaped. And the G-men are not done forcing competition. Big Blue, the battle is here. Subscribe, stay ready, and let's go Giants. We ride together.